haul, unboxing, initial reaction, and I'm doing an example artwork here. I originally recorded the initial voiceover, but then I just planned it out so I could edit the video down to be a more manageable length. This order here is originally from Curry's Art Supplies. It's not a huge order, but it is something I planned out for a long time. Curry's allows you to share your artwork. These are the Stabilo All pencils I ordered. They're actually water soluble and able to draw on many different surfaces. Paper, wood, glass, plastic, and metal, for example. I already had 3 of the black, which I bought before because I really absolutely love them, so I decided to get 2 of the white. I was going to get some of the different colors, but they were all sold out. Now I'm going to open the larger part of the order. These are my Daniel Smith watercolors. I carefully double-checked the light fastness due to recent rumors of light fastness being incorrectly labeled on their tubes, which is not a good thing, and made sure to order more light fast colors. There are reasons to use less light fast colors, depending on your individual preference, but you should be aware. I decided I'm going to save this nice red bag, and I'm also going to save and reuse these elastics. After being sold out, some of these colors finally came back into stock. I've been meaning to add all of these colors to my collection for a while, but with various other orders, other colors on this list were sold out. This is permanent alizarin crimson. It looks similar to the original pigment, but is a light fast version. This is Potter's Pink. Based on a potter's recipe for a colorful pigment, it is granulating with low tinting strength, but should make interesting granulating mixes. This is Phthalo Blue Red shade. I have a green shade by a different company I love, and it is a very useful light fast color, especially for mixes. Aussie Red Gold is a beautiful luminous mix that I could use for additional mixes, and Hansa Yellow Deep, which I don't like as much on its own, but is supposed to be wonderful for color mixing. With a variety of colors, you can then do your own color mixes. These pill bottles are being used now for color mixes and as swatches because I ran out of empty half pans and palettes, so I decided to use these as a dog had chewed up one of my 7 days a week, so now I just use one and refill it every day for my iron pills. I'd already pre-made the labels for these as I was expecting them in the mail, and I had everything ready to go, so here I am just quickly filling them up. Sadly, the recent news about Daniel Smith leaves a very poor impression of the company's ethics. They have an overpriced line called Primatech, where they implied very heavily in all their marketing that it was colored entirely by gemstones, which are also the only pigment listed on the side of the tubes. Yet other inexpensive and mysterious pigments have been found to be the true colors of the line. As this is highly unethical and the light fastness and toxicity are unknown now, I really think we need to boycott at least the Primatech line entirely. However, in general, Daniel Smith paints are extremely fun, high quality, and vibrant. As long as we carefully assume the toxicity and do our own independent research, other consumers' light fastness results are much more trustworthy than the ones the company presents. It has also been found that a few of their other colors that were claimed to be light fast, such as Moonglow, in fact, are not. I won't blame anyone, however, for still buying Daniel Smith paints, but if you do, I advise considering investing more in light fast base or single pigment paints that are much more useful for mixing other colors with, but also buying certain convenience colors that are extremely beautiful, such as my choice to buy Aussie Red Golds, and I hope they change their marketing, admitting the pigments that are found in the Primatech and choosing to lower the price. Now for the testing and first impressions of the Stabilo White All Pencil. It's a little crumbly, it feels oily in an odd, tacky way, but in a fun way. The black felt like that too, and I've owned it already, so I'm used to it. You can also use a paintbrush with it to test its solubility. Here we go. It washes really well, spreads out, and almost erases and moves around. I advise you be gentle with it because it's actually very crumbly when sharpened. However, if you're gentle, it doesn't seem to break that easily. It seems to be good for sketching on dark paper. It also seems really good for sketching on dark paper if I want to then watercolor or gouache over it and make some of these original lines more disappear. I'm going to test in several layers to see how opaque we can get it if I want the white to show up in the final illustration. I find it sometimes difficult for the human brain, or at least for me and a lot of people I've heard from, to work with white on black. It's reversed to how one would normally think or paint. I'm going to give this a little bit of time to dry so that I can do more layers as we go forward and add more to it to continue this testing as we go along. They weren't sharpened, so I went upstairs to sharpen them. I also grabbed my paper, which has my collection of all my watercolor swatches. Continuing on with this white pencil test, I decided to do a kind of little fantasy bird. I tap the card on the side whenever there are crumbly bits, rather than wiping my hand across, which might cause smudges or oils. I notice that it really almost erases in a certain sense when you spread out the pigments too thin. Now I'm going to show you an example test of the black Stabilo All pencil on the Strathmore 500 paper. It's an exceptionally good pencil, in fact, and I find it very fun. But like the white, it's a little crumbly if you're rough at all. Simply tap the excess away. I'm using that V-eater reference to help me come up with this picture. I recommend being more careful and light-handed. The Stabilo All-Black is a very nice matte black and with amazing depth. It gets really dark easily. It is a very good black colored pencil in general and can be used with water to paint. A great supply when you're only picking a few limited supplies to travel with. It's really great for on the go. It's great on lots of different papers I've tried it on, but it can be used on other surfaces as well. The unique oily sticky texture I believe is actually similar to a China marker, but I'm not an expert. It's somehow still very enjoyable. It seems like it wouldn't be water soluble, but it is. You can basically paint a whole tonal study or use it for blacks in different paintings and mixed media artwork. You can also grab black off of the painting itself by using your brush, like I'm doing here, to paint what the bird is sitting on. As you can see, I'm actually grabbing the tone from the bird. You can use this to lighten a very dark black area. In general, I really recommend them as they're lots of fun. I'm still not certain if I like the white one as much, but we're going to check how opaque it can be, and like I already said, it's good for sketches on dark paper that you're painting over. I do have to say, I really like them and I highly recommend them. Here is my large swatch paper. As you can see, that one's out of place, and that one. However, I'd already marked off the new location for the swatches, so let's finally swatch the Daniel Smith paints out. I'm doing it from the wet paint, which is a little different than if you let... Oh, this is a wonderful color. I've been hearing that permanent alizarin crimson. I have the Hydrus permanent alizarin crimson, but I didn't have the Daniel Smith for a proper pan, and oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. What a beautiful red. It's a beautiful, cool crimson red. It's so nice, so smooth to work with. So here is Potter's Pink. And I'm rinsing my brush off over here, which is not, it's not very high tinting strength. It's kind of a grayish, granulating pink tone that is kind of heavy and goopy, which is not, that doesn't sound great, right? But a dusty rose color is very natural, and it fills in gaps in my sort of pink, red, brown collection. And the thing with it is I've heard, because it has such a weak tinting strength, and I've seen some evidence of this, that it adds granulation. So I should be able to do some interesting things by mixing it into other colors to dull them down slightly and make them a little more grayish, pinkish, but so that it could add granulation. Now remember, everything is affected by the paper that you're using as well, not just the technique, but the paper. So I advise everyone does tests on every paper that they have. Oh, I put that in the wrong spot. So let's test how well Hansa Yellow Deep lifts on this 100% cotton paper. Let's see if we can do a lifting scrubbing test real quick. Let's try that again. Let's do the Aussie Red Gold here, which is a multi-pigment mix. I'm doing tests now to check if the myth of mud is a myth. So I'm definitely going to do some more tests for that. Does it matter if it's multi-pigment, or is it more how you're mixing the colors? Does it have more to do with the fillers used and the quality of paint? Is it trickier when there's multi-pigments, but it can still make vibrant mixes? I don't know. But what I do know is this is a gorgeous golden tone that I really, really like, and I'm definitely happy I bought it. And I was thinking about buying Aussie Red Gold for a while because I don't always like bright lemon yellows, but I like golden tones. Hansa Yellow Deep, for example, isn't like my favorite yellow here, but it's great for mixes. And I like variety of color because I like to do a variety of subjects, and I like to do a variety of styles depending on my mood. And if I'm depicting nature, I definitely need bright colors sometimes, you know. A lot of those birds are bright colors, and I love painting birds. I also like making up my own species of birds. So this is the Phthalo Blue Red shade. Oh my gosh, these colors are nice. This one I got mostly because it's apparently one of the most amazing mixing colors that you can mix amazing things with. And I definitely love Phthalo Blue Red shade. And the thing is, phthalo is very light fast and beautiful. And this is a very nice color I needed for my collection. I like my Phthalo Blue green shade, which is a turquoisey one. And I like my Phthalo Blue yellow shade. And they're excellent mixing colors. So I'm going to have to do a lot of tests to check. And look at this granulation. So I'm also going to do tests going forward on the Potter's Pink to see about the granulating effects. Here I'm testing the second layer of the Stabilo All-White pencil. I'm trying to see how opaque I can get it by doing various layers. I'm setting it aside while I do an additional test. I hadn't written this out ahead of time, but I decided to mix all these colors with titanium white gouache. I have less white on one side and more white on the other, as well as sometimes including a section that is a little more watered down, just to show a decent variety of how these colors are working when mixed with the opaque titanium white gouache, which I also like to work with. Lately I've been enjoying gouache, watercolor, and a mixed media using a primary base of watercolor and gouache. As you can see, I continue doing this test. When you mix more white in, it becomes more pastel, but when you mix a little less white, it makes the paint very opaque, but much less pastel. So it's a really useful technique to suddenly mix a gouache version. If you buy a lot of watercolor and some titanium white gouache, you can create a bunch of gouache. Goodness, could I have said gouache any more there? At any rate, it's a fun word to say. I'm penciling in this nice little butterfly so I can test out some of the gouache mix, which is on a palette just off screen, and I can see how opaque it is without overly adding too much white in, and just testing out how opaque it is when it dries, just with a little bit of white added in, and just a general test, an idea to get the impression of these paints when mixed in with a little bit of gouache. Everything of course varies based on the pigments that are used as well. Off screen I have my reference of the digital painting and the bee eaters that I showed earlier, and I'm painting it all in. I'm sorry that this isn't quite in frame in the best spot of the screen. I'm making sure to test some of the colors on the side before using them. This first section involves more of a gouache color mix by mixing some of the different colors together with some white gouache to make it a little more opaque and lighten it down in a way I find pleasing. I'm using mixes of Aussie Red Gold, Hansa Yellow Deep, Phthalo Blue Red shade, and Potter's Pink to make some of the tones in here actually. This one is Aussie Red Gold mixed with titanium white gouache only, and taking some of the colors I've already mixed when moving forward. To mix this red color that's a bit more of a brown, I mixed in the Potter's Pink and the Phthalo Blue Red shade with a base of Alizarin Crimson, and I mixed all the colors together in various degrees to get a gray tone. I focused on having slightly more blue in the mix and then watered it down to get the gray. In this area I used Aussie Red Gold, just as it is, to do the shadows for the feathers, and with a bit of white gouache and a bit of Hansa Yellow Deep, I was able to get the tones on the feathers for the tops here. I had to clear off some of the paint I'd already put down because I made a mistake. This patch on the throat is actually meant to be bright alizarin crimson. I mixed a grayish green for the underside of some of these feathers. I'm trying to make sure the shadow tones are quite good in here as well. This cream tone I mixed with white gouache and Aussie Red Gold also has a bit of the grayish green mixed in. In order to dull it down a bit, I used a violet kind of mix with alizarin crimson and Phthalo Blue Red shade mixed in with the gray to make slightly purpley shadows here. This one is mostly the Phthalo Blue Red shade mixed with gouache in order to make a more opaque bluish tone, but some of the other color mixes, including that green-gray, was added in very slightly to make a more unique tone. I'm only using these colors here. As you can see, I mixed up some very dark tones here using primarily Phthalo Blue Red shade, but there is actually a little bit of other color mixed in with that in order to get the tone the way it is. By putting a little bit of white gouache in, but only a tiny amount, I make it more opaque, but I can also make a tone for the highlights and put them on top of the section. The underside of the wing is a separate color than the top of the wings, like many species of real bee eaters. I had already previously designed the bird's entire look, as well as the top of the wing and the underside of the wing. It has a racket tail, which are two long feathers, which have larger ends. I'm working in layers and in stages, using some of the colors I already mixed to mix into future colors. After letting it dry a bit, I came back and did the throat patch in pure alizarin crimson. This creature is called a synth oliact, uz cones oneme, or a gemstone bee-eater, which is a direct translation from my Fairytail language. This is an alpha-Vatarian species of bird that I recently invented. I used the Stabilo All-Black pencil, showing just how rich black it actually is, in order to do the black details, the pupil in the eye, and the black mask around the eye. I accidentally get a little too much black into the eye color, but it's a super dark alizarin crimson red the eye is supposed to be, so it works fine by layering on top with a bit of alizarin crimson with a tiny bit of gouache. This section here takes a while, but it's actually all just detailing, primarily using the previously mixed green-gray and gray mix mixed in with some of the blue and other colors, so that all the shadows in the feathers and line art I'm adding in here is based on the color hold of the section that it's in. I'm trying to define the spaces between the feathers in order to better define them. I'm adding in small details, putting layers of additional shading on top, and adding in highlights. This final detailing stage takes a bit of time and it polishes the piece, but it's actually less essential than the base forms of the creature and the painting overall. I made sure to take my time with this, but also I was trying to get this entire thing done as quickly as reasonable so the video wouldn't be too long. I'm doing the final layer here of the Stabilo all pencil and testing it out. In the end, I realize it's not as opaque as I was hoping. As I continue painting the bird, I think to myself, it's not quite as opaque as the black would be, and here is the final painting and everything involved in the video. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave your suggestions in the comments below. Once again, that's all for this video. If you like my videos, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell to all notifications so you will know when a new video comes up. I aim for new videos every Wednesday, but sometimes life happens and things are delayed. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you with another one very soon.